So lots of options right from the start, and we'll get to see what do our runners choose.
So Fire Rod, that doesn't do much for us, purely overworld glitch speaking.
But it's still very useful to have that fire source very early on.
So we're going to see the island, which we can get to right away.
Doesn't seem to be worth anything. Spleebie is going to ignore it for now and is heading for Sahasrila. And meanwhile, Chexhuman is checking the Sanctuary bunk rocks and gets some bombs.
Do you think he might consider changing his route, given that?
I don't think so. Although he could, because 3 bombs is enough to clear out the majority of Kakariko. We do find out that our Ice Palace is the green pendant. So
we saw
that is possibly good news.
Yeah, we saw red crystals at Hera and Eastern.
Looks like we're also getting a lumberjack check out of Chexhuman. This is very helpful because it'll tell us whether or not Aghanim is going to be required for the most part. We have many different ways of getting to the mainland in Dark World without gloves or hammer, but the main thing that we're looking for in terms of Dark World access is the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, so it looks like Chex is opting away from Death Mountain. This is unusual for him, you say?
Not entirely. Having the bombs on the bush crab is certainly very helpful there, which means it doesn't necessarily mean he has to go for the Graveyard Ledge Cave as early for a bomb stockpile. Meanwhile, Spleebie is heading over to Uncle, doesn't find a weapon there, so it's unlikely he'll continue any further to try to do the escape sequence just yet.
So we haven't found anything of consequence other than the Fire Rod in Sanctuary.
Which Spleebie now has.
Yeah, so it looks like... What?
Alright, so what Chex did...
He's setting up a water walk there, isn't he?
Yes, he is. If you tap the boots and turn around immediately while right next to a hole, you have to be just next to it. You can arm what's called a water walk. When you jump south into deep water, you can walk on water. Now, there are different ways to disarm this. Jumping south and other ledges will do that. Also, fluting, mirroring, changing worlds, and all that stuff. But it will actually last through damage and bonking and all that stuff.
Wait, this version of... That's not the way I understood it.
Well, once you're walking on water,
right.
You can't bonk, but...
Right.
But until you jump into water, you can still bonk and take damage, and you're fine. So with that water walk, he gets to check the Waterfall Fairy Cave. Gets a couple of chests out of there. And he can get the Zora Ledge item right now, which is decent considering he doesn't have enough money for Zora right now.
So a little bit of a divergence for him, right? Doesn't usually do this that way.
I think he does. He does like to use that water walk off of the Lost Woods hole to check out the Zora area. Just using the whirlpools in that fashion to warp around the world quickly is one of the major strengths when you can start putting some of the more obscure glitches to use.
Alright, so going south here, will he stop by Desert on the way or not? Do that after Kakariko?
Considering he has the Fire Rod, it's not the worst idea. However, he would have to be perfect with his Fire Rod shots at Lanmo to fully clear out the dungeon. Otherwise, it's not the worst thing. However, he does not have any magic, so he can always
use bombs.
He can for the most part, but he still would need a full magic complement, or at least a decent amount to be able to kill Lanmolas. There's only, I think, well, he could pick up some along the way, but it's going to be kind of sketchy unless he finds some other magic here in Kakariko or other weapon of some sort.
So he's deferred the race game item. I imagine that means he's planning to do the desert after Kakariko, planning to clip to that.
Yeah, and likely we'll do that from above rather than below. There's a couple of clips you can do down in the bottom left corner of Kakariko to put yourself on some ledges up there, and you can hop right onto the race game item without even going through the house first.
And how precise is that to avoid getting yourself stuck in the wall?
It's not too terribly precise, but we do find the Moon Pearl in the chicken hut, which is one of our first major items and the one we want to find the most early on.
Yeah, one of the other competitors in this tournament was saying that having a buried pearl versus Chex was terrible because apparently Chex knows some of the Dark World stuff better than a lot of players in this tournament, so this is maybe an advantage for Spleebie.
Could be. It certainly makes routing things a lot easier when you have that peace of mind. Because there have been some pretty nasty Pearl locations that are logically available. Things like the Pearl being in Super Bunny Cave when all you have is a hammer.
Wow, look at this. Chat is rooting against the Moon Pearl. I can't believe these people.
They just want to see the more glitchy stuff, I bet.
Bunch of cheaters.
It's not cheating if it's allowed.
So nothing really of consequence here in other than the Moon Pearl in Kakariko.
The blue mail is pretty nice, especially when you don't have a weapon at this stage, just because Death Warps can be helpful, but they're not as useful when you have the Moon Pearl, because you won't have to do any kind of Dungeon Bunny revivals anymore.
Well, that's pretty useful if we're going to Landmail.
Yeah, it is. A sword is probably just what he needed. However, he tapped the wrong way. He did cheat the race game properly, but what you're supposed to do after you get the item is tap to the right. Because the way the game interprets going into walls, you have to tap the opposite direction from what you want to move. Because it'll kick Link out of the wall that it thinks he's in. So he got a little bit locked there, but it's okay. We have the save and quit. And we find the mirror in the dam, which is another great item to find, and will also cut out on unnecessary death warps.
So are there any mirror wraps in Logic?
No, there are no mirror wraps in Logic. There are mirror clips, though, which are using the mirror to kind of bypass little bits of collision, like going into the Turtle Rock Big Chest.
Are there any other mirror clips other than that one?
Yes, you can also use the mirror to get off of Death Mountain if you never found the Pearl up to this point. But since we have the Pearl, we don't need to worry about that this time around.
Oh, that's the one at the bridge, right?
Yes. It's the oldest DMD that we know of. DMD standing for Death Mountain Descent, which is getting off of Death Mountain without defeating Aghanim 1.
Oh, Check's trying to be cute, trying to get across the north of the gap. That's really tricky. You have to nudge up and right alternately without actually hitting the top wall there.
He is rewarded with the flippers, and we find the Quake Medallion off the old man on Death Mountain. Now, that is technically out of Logic since we don't have the lamp yet. Despite being allowed to do all sorts of glitches, we are not expecting our runners to know how to do dark rooms logically.
Why?
But they can still do them.
That's the silliest thing to. Why is what's the rationale behind banning that versus all the other minor glitches?
I actually don't know.
Dark rooms are hard.
I actually don't know.
Oh, indoors. Oh, so we're.
Yeah, I guess Jedders does bring up a good point there. They are
Well, wait,
indoors, so...
Does that mean bomb jumps are not in Logic?
They are indeed not in Logic.
Those are indoors.
Yeah, but you can still do them. They're not required.
Oh,
And
they're
it's
not required. Okay.
Yeah, and they're not a major glitch, since
Alright,
they're
so-
allowed in your no glitches seeds.
So we just missed Chex doing a world wrap, or was that just a...
It's a slight map rep, but one that doesn't have a chance of hard locking, provided you get right back to the main screen quickly. Now, despite what the camera looks like, there is not a transition that was right next to him there. One thing you have to be wary of when you're doing all sorts of overworld glitches like this are when your camera gets really desynced. If you cause a transition in the middle of the screen rather than at the edge, you're very likely going to hard lock your game and lose all kinds of saved progress. And in fact, it's because of that there are some a bunch of reps and clips that are not in Logic, because they would be facilitating the possibility of causing those hard locks.
Yeah, so we saw the hint near the big chest in Hera saying the swamp big chest was useless. I missed the other hint in Hera. I think it was useless. Okay, so now Chex is finally going up the mountain. He has not gotten that sword from the race game. Didn't go to desert.
Oddly enough, he could be waiting for a decent weapon to go kill Lanmolas. Or possibly beating another dungeon so he can get a free magic refill and do it that way. Who knows?
So chat saying the other hint in Hera is that the left side of Myra is useless.
That's pretty useful.
I said useless.
It's useful info, though. And we get our first crystal at about 10.5 minutes in, which is pretty good. It's nice to get these dungeons done very early, and this won't be the last time we see Hera either, I'm sure. One thing that you tend to find when you're playing a lot of the glitched modes is Hera is kind of a nexus for a lot of things, both overworld and underworld-wise. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, well, let's see. Fast way up the mountain. Chex is going to, I guess, check Spectral Rock and the cave item. He wants the money.
And going straight for the item in Spectral Rock Cave, also with the hint right next to it.
Yeah, if Spleebie got this hint, I missed it. I don't think he did, though. Yeah, but he did not get that yet. So, hook shot.
And I think that's a Stumpy hint. So we know we don't have to visit him, although personally I think I probably would have tuned that out as soon as I saw the cache part of the hint and not noticed where the location was for it. So Spleebie doing a quick death warp out of the basement of Hera after snagging the item down below. So he has fully cleared out Hera and can continue onward. Meanwhile, we just saw Chexhuman do what we call the T-Rock climb, which is a downward teleport combined with abusing the wall collision to kind of kick yourself up the mountain so you can get to the east side of Death Mountain pretty easily and skip over the bridge and all that.
So Spleebie, it looks like, made a mistake going for the Spectral Rock item.
Yeah, I guess he went for the wrong bump on the teleports. There's a few general rules that you want to follow when going for these teleports. They are pixel perfect, but they're also available at several instances along each slope, and we call them bumps. If you notice on a lot of cliffs, you'll see how there are little raised sections here and there. Each of those we consider a bump. And for a lot of downward teleports, you want to be on the third.
So Check's going for a screen wrap to get to the back of Hookshot Cave.
Which is a possibly logically required clip, for those who are wondering.
Really, even though that's a screen wrap, it seems like it could risk of hard lock. It's in logic.
It is in logic, much the same way that the Hera clip is in logic. Both of those do a screen wrap in the same sort of fashion.
And maybe you could get a hard lock, but you'd have to work hard for it.
Yes.
Yeah, on the stump. Yeah, that's stumpy. So this seems like the sensible thing to do with the hookshot. Get over here in Dark Death Mountain, clear out Hookshot Cave, do a bit of do Paradox Cave, do all the East Death Mountain stuff, and backdoor Turtle Rock a bit, I imagine.
He could go for that, or since he has enough money now, he could clip off of Death Mountain and go straight for Zora and get that out of the way.
Is there not going to be some better route to Zora at any point later?
Possibly after Desert, although that one is used by pretty much no one, because it's easy to forget that it exists as a route you can do.
Well, you know Chex. Do you think he knows it?
He does know it, but I don't know if he remembers that it exists. Actually, Purdy Wong is bringing up a good point in chat, in that he could also combine it with Catfish by, after doing some Turtle Rock stuff, he could go into the Dark World and clip off Desert Mountain, hit Catfish first, and then go for Zora. And we find a second sword in Paradox Cave, so Spleebie will be up to Master Sword, while Chex just has Fighter. Although having a sword is really nice, because it does unlock Spin Speed, although we did technically have that with the Hook Shot as well, when you item dash with it. Spin Speed being a nice glitch state that kind of lets you go through a bunch of slopes on the overworld.
And we got a glove in Paradox Cave. You want to talk about the relevance of the first and second glove in overworld glitches?
Sure. The first glove obviously gives you nice Dark World access, although we don't necessarily need it since we can clip off of the Death Mountain in Dark World to get to the mainland in Dark World. As far as what it actually locks, logically, are Checkerboard Cave and the Spike Cave, where the Cane of Birna is found in the original game. I don't believe there are any other glove lock locations that require just the first glove. But what requires the second glove are Smith, the Purple Chest, and Ice Palace.
Well, logically required. We know
Yes.
glitches around all of those things.
Yes. One thing that you may notice is that there's one area that you would think requires the mitts, but doesn't, and that is the hammer pegs. We actually have a way of getting into the moat in front of the pyramid, and then using that to kind of clip in bounds over by the hammer pegs, so we do not need the mitts logically to reach that cave.
So, Spleebie, I am not sure if he did the Dark World stuff. He must have.
I don't
He's
think
coming-
so, because I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't paying attention to which route he did for Death Mountain here.
Yeah, well, in any event, he's going back in the Dark World now. We've got a third sword on Zora.
And he did combine that with Catfish, as Purdy Wong had pointed out from chat.
Oh, he doesn't have the mirror, that's why. So he went over in the Light World first. Yeah, Chex has the mirror out of the dam that Spleebie does not.
But now Chex is going through Tower of Hero, which Spleebie has already fully cleared.
Is Chex gonna... No, he did not forget the hint. So we're inside caves. We're not going to have any fun glitches going on here. And they're both
At least
getting
not
that.
yet.
Yeah, they're both getting that first red crystal. It's very important for opening the pyramid fairy, isn't it, Taj?
Well, I mean, we have access to get both of the red crystals anyway through logic, but there is another way to get there if you have the mirror.
Oh, is there? Do tell.
It's a bit hard to explain the entire process, but the gist behind it is using a screen wrap to place a portal in a different location than where you think it is, and then entering that portal where the crack in the pyramid is on the overworld.
So Spleebie's doing what I've been told is a meme in Overworld glitches, opening the front of Turtle Rock.
It is a bit of a meme, but there is some use behind it. There is that hint tile at the very front. Plus, if you come through and defeat Trinix at some point and haven't beaten Skull Woods yet, you could use a unique map wrap to go from Turtle Rock over to Skull Woods very quickly, if you so chose. There's some value, but it's definitely less than what you would find in your no glitches seeds.
So Spleebie is going to be a bit constrained relative to Chex the longer he goes without that mirror.
Though not as much as you would think. The mirror doesn't actually logically lock all that much. Just the Mimic Cave and Swamp Palace. It just hinders his movement a bit between areas.
Is there another way to get to the Mimic Cave?
There is, but it is not in logic because it is a rather convoluted clip. Though regardless, we still need the hammer to get the item in Mimic Cave, regardless of how we get there.
All right, so what do you think we're going to be doing next for each of these runners? Chex, you would think we'll head to Desert, maybe?
I think instead he's going to head for Thieves Town and Skull Woods, at least hitting the Village of Outcasts stuff, and then maybe head to Desert after checking Mire Hut and such, since he can get in there with just the boots and Moon Pearl.
Ooh, I don't think Spleebie meant to take that death.
I think he did, because he did manage to get the chest from the Chomps, which is as far as he can go in Turtle Rock in that direction without the Gate of Samaria.
Yeah, he must have meant to take that.
And I believe he was saving his key. Or maybe he wasn't. There's not too much else he can do in the dungeon. Okay, he did not get the big key chest yet. I wasn't sure if he had skipped it or not yet. However, we do see Chexhuman on a wrapped Dark World Death Mountain. He's working his way down the mountain right now with Mirror equipped. I think he is going to set the Mirror Portal for a Pyramid Fairy check.
Yeah, I know this one. He's doing that.
So what's funny about the Mirror Portal is that it is placed at your global position on the overworld, but when you do a screen wrap, your local and global position kind of get desynced. Your collision will be based on where you are locally, but your global position changes. And if Chex had opened up his map right before placing the Mirror Portal, you would have seen that he was within the castle courtyard. Now, another funny consequence that you might see in a moment here, he did another Death Mountain descent and going to the graveyard ledge here, but if he goes and falls into the hole next to the graveyard, he'll actually be put into the Houlihan Cave, which is a weird consequence of just doing a Death Mountain descent straight south. Not entirely sure why that happens, but it does.
Well, I mean, the Houlihan is a generic destination when something goes wrong. And in this case, the camera desync is what's gone wrong.
I'm just not entirely sure why it causes the desync.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was running around on some different overworld screen, walking right through walls. You don't understand what went wrong there?
Not after he went off of Death Mountain. All that was fine. In any case, Spleebie has done a traditional Death Mountain descent and is heading towards Skull Woods now. He does have the fire rod, so we might see a full clear of that, although if he is counting his dungeon items, he might be done with the dungeon early, considering that Skull Woods is a pendant.
We see Chex going for Uncle. Now, he has the swords that Spleebie didn't, so Spleebie has not done the front of escape, I don't think.
No, he is not. Spleebie did not have a weapon of any sort at that time. He didn't even have enough bombs to get all the way to Zelda's cell.
So I missed where Chex got the flippers.
That was in Mini Moldorm Cave.
Oh, that was real. Yeah, okay. So Spleebie just hasn't done South Shore at all.
Correct, considering that the mirror is also down in that area of the world. So Red Mail coming in pretty nice for Spleebie, blocking that mummy damage from doing too much harm. Sadly, the Wallmaster is not in a good position. He could try to take a Death Warp, but he is instead going to go for pushing the statue out.
So has Chex even done the Sanctuary Basement? Have we seen that? I feel like we should have seen that, but I don't think we have.
I don't think we have either, because we found the glove on Paradox Cave, and the only other time that we've been next to the Sanctuary was when Chex did that Death Mountain descent, but that was part of his kind of Houlihan check to get over to Link's house for this mirror portal that he's trying to get back to.
All right, so what went wrong there? Why'd he bonk?
He was too low. He wasn't close enough to the entrance for it to trigger.
And so is that a problem with his original portal, original setting of the portal?
Not necessarily. He would have had a better chance of getting the right positioning going into the portal if he had dashed from below.
And that's sort of a frame rule thing where you're moving 4 pixels at once when you dash. So you want to get into the portal a bit, right?
Yeah, you want to get as far into the portal as you really can. And when you dash north while nudging on those sort of orange bushes, it sets you up on a really easy path to land on a good spot where you're not going to bonk from the mirror.
So Spleebie's doing a little bit of a clinch fight here. He does have red mail, but it's 4 hearts Mothula.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where you actually want to hug Moth more than the spikes. There's our lamp in Hype Cave. So now we don't have to worry too much about dark rooms for Chexhuman. We'll see when Spleebie winds up hitting that cave later on.
So we got Spleebie going for a pendant dungeon here. And he went to Mothula before this one chest, hoping for the item there.
Right, and I don't think he has checked the... Yeah, he couldn't have checked the big chest considering the big key was right there. He is, I guess, going to try to backtrack.
So Chex
just going through this little maze.
Chex is forgetting that Stumpy is nothing. He has the hint for that. Chex is going to do the... He's going to stop by Meyer first. So Chex is sort of routing around this race game sword.
Yes. He is going to check checkerboard real quick. Now, you may have noticed that the graphics on the Meyer area were really kind of glitchy. That's because the game didn't actually have time to load the correct overlay for the rain, considering that he did a direct overworld transition. Normally, when you enter a cave or something, or say go through a portal, then the game finally has enough time to load that overlay properly so you can see the rain and not that glitchy mess.
Wow. So there's a sword in the skull big chest. That is all 4. I'm not even sure which one Chex has that Spleebie is missing. Maybe none. So we got the hint for the old man item, which we already have. So, might be worth asking, how short are we? No, we got a bunch of items we need for go mode.
Yeah, considering that Meyer and Turtle Rock are crystals, and we actually haven't even checked to see what the Meyer medallion is yet, so we don't know if that's ether, and we might still need to hunt for that.
Yeah, that seems strange to me that Chex didn't go for the Meyer shed as part of what he's doing here. Maybe he's planning to get back to that portal in some way that I don't know.
He could be. There are certainly ways to do it, but I'm not entirely sure what route he's going to inevitably take, because he still hasn't checked Agina either, which is an area that kind of locks him away from where his mirror portal currently is. Though we do find the Cane of Samaria on the right side of the desert, so that cuts out one of our major items that we need for a couple of dungeons.
And we've got Spleebie going into yet another pendant dungeon. Be interested to see how far he goes in here, having defeated Mothula already. I don't know... I know Chex pretty well, but I don't know Spleebie very well. Do we think maybe Spleebie is prone to gamble hard? Feeling that maybe he's overmatched?
He could be, and that is a concern that you have to take when you think that your opponent can execute better, is do you go for more obscure locations, or do you dip your pendant dungeons much earlier than expected, trying to hope to find that one item that can turn the tide?
I mean, he's going to the back. This feels like a... Well, he doesn't have the mirror. This does feel like a pretty hard gamble, though. Yeah, so I haven't counted items, but he does have the small key, so he's going to risk leaving an item in the big chest.
Right, because he doesn't have the hammer there, and since he does have the small key, it won't be locked in there on its own. So yeah, locking that item there could potentially hurt.
Meanwhile, Chex grabs his second crystal out of desert. Spleebie is going to, at least for now... Oh no, he isn't. Excuse me.
I believe both of those items were junk, and that's the left side of swamp, so we have that info on us now.
Yeah, those were indeed both junk. Yeah, that's why I like killing that slime when I first go in that room. He likes to block throwing the skull at the crystal switch there in Thieves' Town. Alright, so we're looking to see if Chex exits here and goes back to that portal.
He probably will, considering he has the book, so he can check the Bombos tablet right now, and then use that to go back up to his portal that he left by checkerboard.
Yep. I'm going to see maybe a series of clips here to get back to. Oh, hey, I didn't know that one.
Yep, that's one of the advantages of spin speed. That only works on the very thin overworld slopes. It does not work in the underworld at all.
Yeah, there we go. So this is his way back to the Mire Shed. Let's see. Let's hope we get a menu out of Spleebie to see. We probably won't, sadly. But I have not counted items here in Thieves' Town, so I don't know if he's going to be leaving an item in the big chest. So Spleebie really wants this blind item to be something important. He's invested in Mothula and struck out. And he's back here in a second pendant dungeon. He really doesn't want to go 0 for 2 on this. So Mire's Quake, we have that. We have both medallions. Yeah, okay, so he did map, and that was map and compass, so he has left an item in the big chest.
That's rather unfortunate. Because dipping into Thieves' Town again after you've already cleared out everything else just for the item in the big chest is kind of one of those things you do last.
Yeah, and he did a little hesitation there, like he's maybe wondering how hard he has to gamble now to make up for missing out on 2 different pendant dungeons. I mean, he almost has to go to ice now, right?
Unfortunately, without the hammer, he's not going to be able to do much there.
I don't mean now, but now he has to make the decision to go to ice to try to make up for this these 2 early failed gambles. Chex doesn't even hover to get to Vitreous with that early big key. I'm so disappointed.
The thing is, I know that he can. Because there's a category that he runs that hovers in the other direction.
I know that he can too, that's why I'm disappointed. Okay, but now he is indeed going straight to Vitreous, having gotten 1 item out of that spike chest. So he's gonna hope for the second item here on Vitreous, but I imagine he'll go back in and just get that second item no matter what.
This is actually kind of unfortunate for Spleebie now that I'm realizing. He doesn't have the mirror to go into desert right here, which is where the Cane of Samaria is. He might be going into a mire dip right now and won't be able to fully clear it, considering he's missing this Cane of Samaria, but maybe not. Maybe he's going elsewhere now.
Yeah, he gave a little hesitation. He thought about it. So Chex threw a block into a pit. He is setting up for the spooky action glitch here. He will move down and do a fire rod dash up. There we go.
Doesn't hit the second one, though, unfortunately.
Spleebie's trying to do a spin speed clip through a diagonal wall here.
Those are real nice if you can hit them quickly, but they're kind of pixel perfect, so it's sort of a gamble to go for them a lot of times.
So Master Sword, no bow. We do have the cape, though, so this should be a, pretty safe fight here. I think the best option here is to, yeah, exactly that. Pin the big eye in the corner and do little turnbacks to keep him there. Gotta do turnbacks usually. I guess so that's mainly if you're using the hammer. But with the sword, he drifts up if you don't do little turnbacks. So now I think we're finally seeing the first check into Sanctuary Basement. Chex may have actually done this. I think he did.
I don't think so. Because the key is back here. Which means it couldn't have been in the dark chest or the front, and the only time that we've seen someone fall in the back was when Chexhuman. So that was our first glimpse at the back of the sanctuary area.
And Chex is down a shield, so I imagine he has actually not done this yet. Chex is going to clip out and continue on. What do we think?
Well, he's got Village of Outcasts to clear from here and could head straight up that way.
Oh yeah, he hasn't done that. Spleebie came down through the village. What clip is he going to use to get up past the rock? Is it here in the digging game area?
Yeah, it's a series of 2 upward teleports that you do to go up the left side once you're done with the digging game.
So
Unfortunately, this digging game is running a little long. It's kind of a fun game to see if you can beat the timer once you get the item, but that's not going to happen this time around.
Yeah. So Spleebie, making his way back to escape, didn't have the weapon the first time through. Oh, Chex is finally going to check the race game, get his tempered sword. You want that, Chex.
So funny thing about doing this clip up to the race game, you actually have to turn to the side, otherwise you don't land in the correct spot and just get stuck in the wall without being able to get the item. But turning to the side just changes it ever so slightly so you can grab it.
And why don't you tell us why that happens, Dodge?
I don't know. This game is weird.
Yeah, the technical reasons behind many of these glitches are just not known. People just messed around and they know things work. Well, Yuzuhara might dispute that pretty long. Yeah, Yuzuhara is a Japanese, I don't know, does he run this game?
He did back in the day, but he focuses mainly on tool-assisted speedruns nowadays and has found a majority of the major glitches that we use today, between all the bottle adventure stuff, all kinds of door glitches, and a lot of camera correction stuff. It's uncanny how much he's found.
Yuzuhara is the Y in the YBAs that we talk about. Not sure we're going to see any of those in this match. Be a sort of corner case here at this point.
And the only bottle that we found so far has not been pre-filled with a potion that we could feasibly use.
YBA is Yuzuhara's Bottle Adventure, and the principle is using a bottle on the same frame as you do a screen transition. And broadly speaking, because you're doing something on the same frame, the game gets confused. Generally, what will happen is you will transition. The bottle animation will interrupt the transition and keep you in the same place, and then you will transition a second time. And two different parts of the game, so to speak, will think you are on different screens. Do I have that about right?
Relatively. There's also an ancillary effect that can happen, and when we're dealing with the overworld transitions, if you use a blue potion for a YBA, then it will call the flute menu no matter where you are in the world, which is really useful because you can use it in the dark world.
So Spleebie now is going to get K45, and one would imagine continue on to Desert and get the Canis Samaria.
Right, and oddly, we are seeing Chex head through the back of Pendant Pod. Now, he is also going to run into the same problem of abandoning the Thieves' Town big chest without the hammer.
This seems like an odd choice for him. I mean, I guess his options are somewhat limited, but one would think going back to Turtle Rock is pretty appealing at this point with the Canis Samaria.
Yes,
and Fire Rod.
Yeah, at that point, you're guaranteed to find the big key in Turtle Rock and can make your way all the way to the Laser Bridge, which has a pretty good collection of items. And since that is logically available, that's one of those concentrated areas you might want to focus on.
I would like to point out, I know how to do the glitch Spleebie just did.
The Overworld bomb clip?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a fun one. That's actually fairly new in terms of stuff that we know from glitches.
So we've got Eastern and Pod would be an interesting combo for Chex with the mirror. Spleebie has the mirror now.
Right, but he is missing the bow and the hammer, and I know he does like. I know that Chex likes to put Pod off for as long as he can.
Oh, well, shame on him then. This just seems like a highly skippable Thieves' Town at this point in the game.
I agree.
So he's going to orphan the big chest, matching Spleebie. Maybe he'll unnecessarily beat Skull Woods too. Put them on even footing, or relatively speaking. I believe Chex getting the mirror early has made his route maybe significantly more efficient. So he's, broadly speaking, ahead.
Right, with that entire Misery Mire dungeon done for him.
Yeah, so ahead on crystals and ahead in bulk material progress. So even if they full cleared the game, even if they had to full clear the game from this point, Chex is ahead.
But there's still some decisions that could be made, like we were pointing out earlier with Pendant Ice Palace, dipping into that. And since Spleebie has 2 of the Pendant dungeons already completed, getting that and doing a check for the pedestal might not be out of the cards.
How quick can you do it? Oh, that's cute. Chex doing a spin speed off the Thieves' Town stair there. Check the sick kid. Anyway, how quick is it to... is there a quick route to check the pedestal?
Not necessarily. The quickest way you really have is from Sanctuary, and barring that, you could possibly do it from a map rep, but I don't recall the specifics on how to do that, and so I doubt either of our runners would know that either. In any case, that's far away from where Ice Palace is, so I doubt we'll see that outside of a saving put to Sanctuary.
Yeah. So Chex is now doing... He is going to the back first of Skullwoods. I wonder if he's just going for this middle chest first to make sure he has a key.
Well, there's that, and he could also use that mirror plus book to check the pedestal and see if he even needs to go into finishing off Mothula and all that.
So the arrangement here was, I believe there was an item in front, but the
And a sword in the big chest.
Yeah, and the big key was in the back here. So Chex is gonna go at least towards the back, and I imagine he'll check this front chest where the big key is. I wonder whether he'll kill He's going straight for Mothula. All right. So this will put him on. This will Chex will give back some time here that Spleebie wasted. Although going to the back first, I think will make this check overall fast. This Skullwood's clear faster overall, in addition to his more efficient route with the earlier mirror.
That plus he'll be able to check out the pedestal item, which is a bit out of the way for Spleebie at this point. And it would be better if Spleebie went for a blind pull later on, if that is part of his routing at this point.
So what Spleebie will want is something deep in ice, or on Cold Stare, or on Sahasrara. Okay, so the second item was on Mothula anyway. Yeah, so Chex has a good chance to skip a bunch of the front of Skull by getting this big key and going straight for the big chest. We see the traditional 46-minute mini Moldorm Cave.
Yeah, that's kind of the funny thing about a lot of overworld glitch runs is there's a bunch of places you would consider very early checks that you wind up putting off until later just because they weren't part of your route. Escape is certainly famous for that, but South Shore can be as well.
All right, so we'll get the Chex will pander to chat here. Check the pedestal. And chat is disappointed. But that's maybe, I mean, given their positions, Chex is, let's see, ahead by maybe a full mire clear. Is that possible? Spleebie's done a bit in Turtle Rock that Chex hasn't.
Right, and has already opened the front, which makes it easier for Spleebie to get those front chests and get the big key, and then he can exit more quickly and head straight to the big chest.
So there is some stuff Chex hasn't done that Spleebie has, but overall we're looking at a good chunk of time that Chex is ahead, so Spleebie may need something like an item deep in ice.
Or a location that Chex hasn't checked yet, like Hobo. At least I don't think he has checked it.
Spleebie may have been a pixel away from dying there. As a shield, I'm not sure if that would have blocked it.
Doesn't matter, he has flippers. He wasn't in a fake flipper state.
Oh. So Chex is going north for some reason. Why don't you tell me what that reason might be?
All right, he's doing a DMA up to the Dark World Death Mountain. Is he... Okay, there is a spot he can jump and bounce right there. I was wondering if he was going to go for the flipper clip that's up along the top. That one is relatively obscure, and I would have been really surprised if he did it.
Well, now where is he? Oh, he's going for Ganon's Tower now.
Yes, and now, while he does have access to the entrance of Ganon's Tower as a logical clip that he can do, this does not mean that Chex is near the end of the game. We still need to have all 7 crystal dungeons completed before we can defeat Ganon. He will be invulnerable in the 4th phase until you have all 7 crystals.
And I believe that is a hack added explicitly for Randomizer, correct?
Yes. Normally in the game, as soon as you reach Ganon, you can damage him, provided you have the right equipment to do so.
So Chad is memeing it up, going ahead and starting the big key guessing game.
We usually don't do that for overworld glitches because it's rather unpredictable as to when runners are going to go into Ganon's tower. Usually in your no glitches seed, there's a bit more time so you can do the game properly, but in this, we don't bother usually.
So Chex has decided to save a menu and not switch to the cape here. What you could do is you could activate the cape and grab a wall, and that prevents magic usage and keeps you from getting hit by tiles or getting wall mastered, so that makes this room trivial. He's decided to mess around going in and out of the door here.
Alright, so Spleebie is heading up to Zora now. We'll be actually getting the gold sword. So both of our runners will be fully decked out in their sword equipment.
So Spleebie will have gold sword and cape for Vitreous compared to Chex's master sword. Tiny bit of a time save, but every little bit helps now.
We get another fetch quest item, so we get Mushroom and Shovel out of GT here so far.
I wonder if Chex will continue to ice arm us here. He will. So he's risking orphaning the big chest here. And I'm not sure how the key logic works outside of key sanity. I want to say that this is not in logic yet.
No, well, yeah, I'm not entirely sure on the key logic at that point.
He could have used the small key on the middle door. He could have wasted a key. So I believe this is out of logic without the hammer.
That sounds right. Meanwhile, we see Spleebie placing a mirror portal so he can check out the Pyramid Fairy, which Chex has already done. Now, one thing about placing your mirror portal is if you save and quit, your mirror portal gets erased from the world, or rather gets set into the very upper left corner of the map where you can't reach it. So you have to be able to reach your mirror portal through other means. Now, you can actually do a death warp on the overworld, which will save your mirror portal, but then you can start at Link's house and hit it that way.
So Chex is demonstrating that sword beams are a very effective weapon against Armos here.
They are the third best item to fight them.
Behind Bo and Berna. Yeah, I was seeing some mistakes made earlier in a entrance match, but it applies here in... So we got the big key, so Chex will not orphan the big chest. As I was saying, mistakes made in an entrance match earlier where players were using Master Sword on... Uh-oh, has Spleebie made a mistake here?
Nah, no.
So the damage table for Armos is unusual in that Master Sword actually does the least amount of damage. Fighter Sword is actually equal to Tempered Sword for the purposes of Armos in particular. So if you are fighting Armos with the Fighter Sword, spins actually do less damage than slashes or pokes. And if you're fighting with a Master Sword, pokes actually do more damage than slashes. And the same amount of spins. Meanwhile, Spleebie is showing us a trick to get by the hammer pegs here. Not having much luck with it. And Chexhuman got nothing out of the mushroom, so he's safe scumming it.
Are we getting a swamp check out of Spleebie here? Is he hoping for a hammer in the first chest?
He's got to feel bad about these pendant dives he's made. Chex, his pendant dives were a bit more natural just because of the route he chose. And of course we know he's ahead, given the earlier mirror. So here comes one of the least pleasant possible places for the hammer. The first chest in swamp, or second rather, besides the guaranteed key.
Now on Chexhuman's side, we're actually going to see what we call the Batcave clip. This one involves kind of doing a screen wrap and hitting the transition from the other side, which then kind of puts you halfway along where the screen is, which conveniently puts you right by the hole, and so you can just fall right in and go right to the Batcave, while skipping needing to use the mirror or the hammer to reach the cave normally. That clip is currently in logic. And he's also using Fake Powder, which is trying to use the Cane of Samaria when you don't have enough magic, and then immediately switching to the Mushroom. Or
Is
Powder,
fake-
for that matter.
Oh, well, no. Fake powder can't be in logic because you could consume the mushroom.
Correct. Since you gain logical access to the Witch's Hut at the same time, you cannot logically require that Fake Powder be used.
So Chex reset there, I imagine just to save the magic. He got nothing on his route with the shovel. Okay, I guess Spleebie's going... What is he doing?
I don't know, actually. He could be heading over to Pod at this point.
He may have just changed his mind about what he was doing there. So we've got the 56-minute back of escape check. Good job, Chex.
Okay, now I see what Spleebie's doing. He could have clipped into Meyer from down below where those hammer pegs were, but he may not have been familiar with that clip and wanted to go to a clip where he was more familiar with the positioning.
Yeah, so he's now got Samari. He can full clear this. He's going to... Did Chex have a lamp when he did this? He must
Yes,
have.
Chex did have lamp.
So, Chex has to go somewhere unpleasant now. Somewhere he can't clear. Seems to me like Turtle Rock would be the best bet.
I agree with that, especially because he can go from Turtle Rock down to Pod very quickly through a series of clips. So it's not unreasonable for him to hit Turtle Rock first out of the remaining dungeons.
Now, throw in an ether check. We saw this from Spleebie, I believe. Anything in GT. We got the shovel and mushroom, which both led to nothing.
All right, so now we see a mirror wrap out of Chexhuman, which is using a mirror on the same frame as a transition, which acts very similarly to that screen wrap clip that he did to the Batcave, where it kind of places him further along the Overworld screen, which conveniently placed him right by the laser bridge, but a bit above it, so he had to jump down to actually get to the cave. Inside, we find the Mitts, which does give us finally logical access to Ice Palace.
And although this mirror wrap was not in logic, we have everything we need to get here logically otherwise, because we have the medallion for the front of Turtle Rock.
As well as the Cane of Samari and the Fire Rod, just in case the big key wound up in those chests locked by the torch room.
So what do we think? Can Chex go backwards completely through this dungeon?
The only thing he can't hit going in this route is the big chest.
Yeah, you have to go in that entrance in particular for the big chest. And he can't exit the front because he hasn't opened the front. So he would be stuck, right? So he has to mirror and do something from the laser bridge exit.
Right. Oh, but it looks like he's maybe going to exit out by the big chest so that he can mirror to there and check it once he gets the big key from the front.
Ooh, Spleebie is being a little careless for my money. Okay, there we go. Yeah, use the cape. And in addition to what I mentioned earlier, that you can grab a wall and not use magic with the cape, it also does not consume magic while slashing. So once you're in the big eyeball phase of Vitreous, you can just sort of walk up there and spam slashes, and you will not use magic with the cape, or at least use it very slowly. So we're on parity with dungeon clears.
Yeah, at this point, I think Chex only has laser... No, not quite. Chex has done a bit of GT, which Spleebie has not.
I did say clears now. Come on. Yeah,
I count it as a half clear.
Yeah, Chex is still ahead in material by quite a bit, really. And they have both orphaned the same things. Yeah, Chex will go all the way backwards. It looks like Spleebie is heading for Pod now. Pod and Eastern.
Making good use of a clip through the wall to get into the water there.
And as we did not find anything in Ganon's tower, although we're saying Chex has a material advantage, Spleebie may end up ahead out of this combination of routes, because it's looking like whatever we need is in Pod or Eastern. Although we did find the mitts from the laser bridge, which logically puts Ice Palace in logic. Chex had to think a minute there about whether he had the hook shot to go this way through the torch puzzle.
It's one of those things that's so easy to forget if you have it or not.
Yeah, so reading this really feels like there is progression, perhaps even the hammer in Ice Palace. I mean, because it has given you all the things you need to get to Ice Palace, and we haven't otherwise used the... I don't think we have found any progression behind the flippers, is that correct?
Considering that the only progression that is logically locked by flippers in Swamp Palace, then yes.
So we got the powder there out of the first chest in Pod, or not, I'm sorry, the bridge chest.
Well, the first chest had to be a key, so we're still fine on that front.
Why did it have to be a key? Didn't have to be a key.
The fact that it was a key is more what I was referring to. Sorry if that was unclear.
Alright, so the hint in Pod is that the purple chest is useless, and Chex is right behind him getting into Pod. And so that's one fewer things that the... Okay, Spleebie is doing the Mimic Clip, and he is doing it bufferless. This is a bit difficult.
So the idea behind this is what Spleebie wants to do is hit right for one frame, which lets the Mimic go into the wall. Then he wants to move up or down to kind of reset the sort of sub-pixel positioning of the Mimic. And he wants to do that 8 times until the Mimic is far enough in the wall that he just kind of gravitates outside of the room. And as soon as the Mimic is off screen, then the door will open, because the game considers him dead.
And he needs to do it 8 times without error, because the Mimic gets ejected from the wall every time you miss it a little. Although it looks like you can make a small error, and you only get a few frames of ejection when you miss it. But he's almost got it now. And I'm not even sure he needs to do this. If I recall correctly, I think we've seen one bottle that has a potion. So there it is. That Mimic will go all the way off screen. And kill rooms actually do not require you to kill the item. Kill all the enemies inside. All it requires is for the enemies to get off the camera, off the visible screen. So, door opens when that mimic clips out of bounds.
Finding the big key on that side is actually pretty nice for Spleebie there if something winds up in the big chest in the back here.
And I imagine Chex has gone into Eastern first, mainly to avoid what Spleebie just had to do. So I think it's generally a better idea to go into pod first, because you don't have to go so deep to get most of the things. Although I know for a fact that Chex can do what Spleebie just did, and he can do it bufferless.
That's a bit of a late flute, and considering we've done most of the stuff in Kakariko and Village of Outcasts, it probably won't be activated in this race, although I could be wrong. The flute is still a nice time save, even though it isn't required for anything.
I have heard some overworld glitchers refer to it as a blue potato. Not big fans of the flute in overworld glitches. Not required for anything.
It's a nice to find early on, but at this late, it's not.
I mean, incredibly unlikely that we'll see that activated, right?
Yes, incredibly unlikely.
So we have not seen progression here. I mean, it seems like it's got to be ice now, right? Ice or the Smiths.
Yeah, ice or Smiths. And since Spleebie is still missing those mitts, which are on Laser Bridge and Turtle Rock, he's got a ways to go before he runs into that. And he might be trying to stay more in logic right now, because we tend to try to, or a lot of people tend to avoid the mitts-locked locations unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah, we did get powder in pod, but Chex has checked that with a fake powder glitch, so we know that's nothing. Alright, so they're exchanging dungeons here, and Chex is not getting the big key off the right side first, so he's going to spend a bit of time in here that Spleebie did not. In fact, I wonder if he'll even go to the right side, where he will have to mimic clip. I'm not sure he has the potion.
I don't think either of our bottles did have potions in them, so he would have to mimic clip, yeah. Actually, if one of them had a fairy, they could do the bottle glitch along the hallway there. But with red mail and this many hearts, that's a bit infeasible, considering how much damage you'd have to take.
How much damage do the red mimics do? I mean, their little fireballs hit pretty hard normally, but I think they end up only doing a quarter damage with red mail. Is that right?
Probably only half, because they do...
Right, half. I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I think they do 2 hearts on green mail, and it's not exactly 1/4 of the damage, but it usually is close to that.
Chex is a pixel too high. Okay, so he's resetting. Yeah, the damage reduction for mail upgrades is sort of on a case-by-case basis.
Much like how the weapons you use to damage enemies are, like with the Armos example that we pointed out earlier.
Well, Armos is the one outlier, I believe. There are some very strange things, like the Gold Sword Spin does no extra damage except to a single enemy, the Hinox.
I think it also does it to Igors as well, but they don't have enough health to take advantage of the extra damage coming in.
Oh, excuse me.
Regardless, it's not really used to its full effectiveness.
So Chex is doing the big key chest. I think the route Spleebie took he may know this had to be a key. So, in addition to having the big key early, he was able to skip this chest, I think. Are we going to see Spleebie activate his flute?
I think we might. Yep, we're getting a flute activation.
Why, though?
Because he's on his way to check the powder bed, I think, and this is a nice thing to do along the way.
Oh, fair enough. All right, so Chex looks like he's trying to do something. He's doing something. This is shenanigans.
He's getting some potions.
Ah.
Now, if you notice, that bit to the left of him is a broken transition, so he had to go to the right to scroll the screen properly. If he had hit that transition without correcting it, then he would have hard-locked his game.
Alright, so is he doing this just to go back for the potion glitch? That doesn't seem right.
I think he's more refilling his magic for when he dips into Ice Palace. He might be heading there next.
So
Or he could be going for the potion glitch since he grabbed that red. You may be right on that. Alright, so Spleebie did check out the pedestal, so if he does find all 3 items in Ice Palace, he knows he doesn't need to full clear it for that check. He still might clear it just for the Sahasrahla item, though.
King's Tomb, have we seen this? We could have seen this via a glitch. No, we have not seen it.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so what does that do? That allows us to full clear swamp. I imagine that's the next move here. Yeah, Spleebie is checking his powder, because from his perspective, that seems very likely to be progression. Okay. I guess we're not going to swamp. What are we doing, Chex? I guess we are. What is he doing?
Maybe he wanted to set a save and quit before attempting a mirror wrap?
Why does he need to mirror wrap?
I don't know. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I was thinking Ice Palace. Yeah, he should be going to Swamp.
And he saved and quit anyway from that point, so... He changed his mind twice, I think. We'll make fun of him afterwards in the interview for that. Right? You're with me on that, right?
Sure. Sounds fun. Alright, so Spleebie is up on Death Mountain again. He's probably heading towards Turtle Rock, and will be clearing that out as much as he can. Or he could be going to Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, he has not been in Ganon's Tower yet. But he is going to Turtle Rock, so he'll get his mitts. And that may... Is King's Tomb in logic without mitts?
Yes, because they have the mirror.
Oh, right. So, hammers in King's Tomb. It is now worth asking how close we are to go mode. We're going to need the bow and ice rod, and that should be it, right?
Yep,
Can't be anything
all.
else.
That's all.
So, man, it's... Spleebie is really going to want to go to ice. I mean, I believe that's why he went out of his way to check the pedestal. He was perhaps preparing an Ice Palace dip. Wanted to know if it would be worth his while to kill Cold Stare. Or at least additional value from killing Cold Stare. So let's see, is it faster? Is he just going to go straight through the dungeon, or is it faster for him to do something else here?
I think he still has one more chest in the front, the one covered by all the spikes. And from there, he'll probably mirror and then head towards the back.
Oh, he'll probably just go from the big chest entrance.
Right.
So Spleebie doesn't know it, but he desperately wants nothing to be here in Swamp. We have a hint that I think both at the big chest and the left side are nothing, so Chex can go straight to the back. So it'll be very quick for him.
I had forgotten about the big chest hint for here.
Yeah, that was very early. In fact, so early I wonder if they're both going to remember it.
Well, Chex did forget one hint earlier in this seed, so he may have forgotten this one too.
Which hint did he... Oh yeah, the Stumpy hint. So, unfortunately for Spleebie, Chex just doesn't have that many options after Swamp. There's just no way for him to go somewhere that Spleebie won't, or Spleebie will, rather.
Yeah, because he could go to Ganon's Tower and searching for the bow and the ice rod. But at this point, Spleebie really has to hope that it's in Ice Palace.
That is a good point. I did not consider Ganon's Tower, so Spleebie wants Chex to full clear the... Well, even then, he's only going to need to go to Rando Room, because he already has the big key and defeated Ice Armos.
Right.
There just aren't many ways for Spleebie to come back at this point. It's going to have to be something like Smith's, and Chex does that last. Spleebie giving a hard think after getting those mitts there. So he may be thinking the same way we are, that he's behind and he's got to make a play with those mitts.
Now, the first thing that comes to mind when you're doing overworld glitches and you get mitts are not only Ice Palace, but the Smith and the purple chest.
And they both have the hint that the purple chest is useless. Yeah, Spleebie was thinking twice and thinking he's going straight to ice. He's gambling hard. Hammerless Ice Palace. So Chex, I imagine, is not going for the Smith. Just kidding. What's he doing? I don't know.
He never checked Hobo.
I actually think he did, but we'll see here.
Spleebie did, but Chex did not.
Yeah, and with that potion, he may be going back for the potion glitch in Pod.
Though that could only net him the ice rod at this point. So that might not necessarily be what he wants at this juncture, because finding the bow would let him full clear both Pod and Eastern and cut out an additional trip to that area.
Yeah, I think the conservative play... If he thinks he's ahead, which he may not because he dove all the useless pendants that Spleebie did, the conservative thing would be to do Smith and then do whatever he's doing. But he's going for Ganon's Tower? What's he doing?
Yeah, he's probably going for Ganon's Tower. The only way this can burn him is if Bow is on Smith at this point. Or Hammer Picks, because we haven't seen that yet, though it has been only unlocked since we got the hammer from King's Tomb.
So if he's confident in his mimic clip, I don't think there's any reason for him not to go upstairs.
We just got a hint in Ice Palace. The bow is in the Spike Cave.
Well, that helps.
So Spleebie is hoping to find the ice rod and hammer here. We know the hammer won't be, but if he finds the ice rod here, that's going to be pretty good for him.
And that is one of the things that could possibly change this race, where Chex has what seems to be a large material lead. Well, not seems to be, it is a large material lead, but not necessarily going to go to all the right places next. Spleebie knows one of the places he has to go. And there's another way that this could help Spleebie. It could actually be good for him that he's coming in here without the hammer. If nothing is hammer locked in Ice Palace, this could only be the ice rod now. You gotta move. Yeah, there you go. So if the ice rod is on something like Smith, Spleebie gets that and the hammer, then knows where the bow is. Chex could be wasting all this time left side, and then could waste all his time in Ice Palace. I mean, we're really reaching here for ways to Spleebie to claw back some of this time. So nothing in the left side of Guinness Tower.
So there's just 2 more places that Spleebie... No, actually, yeah, only 2. He's got the big chest and the one chest on the right side that he can hit.
And we have everybody's favorite hint. A unique item requires a bomb. You know, you're calling us unbiased commentary. I cannot quite tell if... I can't tell if you're being sarcastic, because both of us know Chex pretty well.
We're pulling hard for Spleebie, though. He has a chance here.
I mean, I'm just looking for a way for this race to be interesting, honestly. It's a bit tough. So he didn't find Ice Rod in Ice Palace, which is unfortunate. That hint, though, is nice. So we got the hint. Bow is in Spike Cave. We'll see what Spleebie looks like. He's going for the Smith. This is one of the ways that he could get ahead. So nothing in Mimic Cave. Spleebie has a chance to skip that if he has a late hammer and does something else.
The other thing that could possibly hurt Chex is if he thinks maybe there's something in the Thieves' Town big chest, because that still has an item that we orphaned very early on. However, I think Chexhuman might be heading for Spike Cave right now.
Yeah, so he's going to get his bow. Yeah. And Spleebie's here and cannot check hammer pegs. So, hopefully it's nothing, and Chex wastes his time doing that.
There's our ice rod.
Wow. So suddenly, Spleebie is a hammer away from go mode.
Oh, but he may have forgotten the purple chest hint. Wasting a little bit of time. Thankfully, he has the mirror, so this isn't going to be too punishing.
So Spleebie just needs to get to King's Tomb for the hammer. Chex is doing something.
He is heading to... Oh, he hardlocked, and he lost his bow. He's going to have to go get that again.
But that, unfortunately, looks like he's headed straight to Smith's. Is that right?
He's headed towards Smith's and Hammer Pegs, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be... Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is Spleebie doing it?
Spleebie is heading towards King's Tomb. Going to pick up that hammer.
So what do we have here? We had the big key in Ganon's Tower was behind Arsarmos. So that is an advantage that Chex has. Spleebie is now in go mode. He knows the bow is in Spike Cave. Chex hardlocked. He has to come back here. He does not know where the ice rod is. He has to go to Smith's. He plans to do that next. But we have got a race here. Chex, meanwhile, has to go right side in pod to get the pod big key.
Whereas Spleebie can just head straight for the boss.
Yeah.
Alright, so Chexhuman does a save and quit after the Spike Cave. Wanting to save the bow this time.
Yep. Pretty Wong is reminding me that Chex has the swamp full clear in his pocket.
Yeah,
it is a go mode swamp. It'll be fast, but It's a bit of oh.
Does he have a fairy in a bottle? No, they were just bees, right?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think it was 2
no.
bees. So, he's got to think about it a little. I think he'll just flute to. So Meanwhile, Chex has abandoned his plan to go to Smith's. That could be really bad for him if he decides to go to Ice Palace instead. It's not a sensible thing to do, in my opinion. One item from Go Mode, I would prefer to do single checks rather than a big, long dungeon. But it's possible.
Although Chex is not really wasting a whole lot of time doing Ganon's Tower now. He'll
Yeah,
open up the pyramid and then have just Podge and Eastern to clear. After Turtle Rock, of course, once he gets the Ice Rod.
And he'll have a natural route from the pyramid. He'll be able to swim over from just south of the pyramid to the Hammer Pegs area and do Hammer Pegs together with the Smiths. So it's looking like he's on the right path to the Ice Rod. Spleebie is about to show us where the bow was. Yeah, so if you make it to this rock with 4 hearts, you're good. So Spleebie in Go Mode has all the items he needs to beat the game. Chex is doing a dungeon he needs to do and probably plans to go straight to the Smith area, which has the Ice Rod for his Go Mode. Spleebie, gotta come here in the Dark World. There you go.
Oh man, all these extra screen transitions are just eating away seconds.
Yeah, and meanwhile, on top of doing Swamp here, Spleebie has to get the Ganon's Tower Big Key from behind Ice Armos. He has not done any of Ganon's Tower, I don't think.
Yeah, well, yeah, he hasn't dipped at all, as far as I'm aware.
So we got half magic somewhere. I missed that. Maybe that was a while ago on something like Argus?
Could be. I wasn't paying attention when it was picked up. I'm wondering if Spleebie is going to check a couple of chests that are on the way, stuff like the waterfall in Swamp here, in an attempt to possibly find the silver arrows.
Yeah, natural to open the waterfall chest and maybe go south to the 2 sunken chests, just because it is 2 chests. Chex isn't even hovering.
Well, he is on the hunt for the Ice Rod still. It could be up here, as far as he knows. It's not.
So, Overworld glitches is a bit variable just because so much of the world is open from the beginning. You can have a wide range of finish times, but this is looking like a bit of a slow seed, maybe?
No, this is rather standard. A slow seed would be closer to the 2-hour mark. We're only at about an hour and a half in, and we're getting near to the end, so I'd say this is about average.
Well, how is it going to take 2 hours, given that so much of the world is open? You're going to have to do a bunch of DMDs because you have no glove?
Yeah, when you have when your only access to the Dark World is that portal up on Death Mountain, it takes a lot of time to get to different areas, and conserving your save and quits is important in those cases.
Yeah, so Spleebie only goes for the one extra chest in Swamp. Just the waterfall chest. So if Chex goes to ice here, which is pretty unlikely, that could even them up. He's more likely to go to the smith here. Why is he going north?
I don't know. Didn't he already checked Catfish?
I'm
Oh, he's heading into Pod. He's doing a clip to skip a lot of the bush maze.
Unfortunately, that maybe takes him away from where he needs to go, though, on the overworld, right?
It does. However, there's only a couple of checks here that he has to do anyway. Just the... Well, actually, since he hasn't done the big chest in Pod, that could sap some time away from him.
Yeah, he will waste time doing that. But I'm thinking, how much more likely is it now that he goes into Ice Palace, that he gambles that over the Smiths?
I'm not sure, really.
Because the natural thing was to go south of the pyramid, right? And swim over to the Smiths and the Hammer Pegs, right?
Yeah, that's a rather natural route. Maybe it's out of mind considering he's got a couple of crystal dungeons ahead of him with items that he could find. So he might be just trying to do stuff that's on the way, in a sense, rather than going for one-offs.
So Spleebie is going to join him with the Pod Eastern double clear.
Although he still has that full Ganon's Tower clear hanging over his head.
He does have two nice things, which will be that once he clears Turtle Rock, he'll go straight over to Ganon's Tower, right? And then...
once you're done with Turtle Rock, it's actually faster to save and quit and then just clip in normally. You really want to avoid that cutscene that shows Ganon's Tower opening normally.
Okay.
But nonetheless, yeah, right after Turtle Rock, you're going to do Ganon's Tower, which is going to place him right by the Ganon fight.
Yeah, so save a little bit of time in overworld travel. And he did indeed skip the big key chest, knowing that it was a small key. Yeah, so there's a guaranteed item in the big chest, so Chex will certainly go back for that. Don't want her skipping the ice rod there. So we've got a little bit of drama here. Chex ahead. He has a simple check, the Smiths, for just the ice rod for go mode. If he goes straight there, he'll be ahead by quite a bit, really. Ganon's Tower climb plus the...
I'd say about 6 minutes ahead, because once Chex is done with Turtle Rock, he then has to make his way over to the pyramid, which is probably going to be about a minute of overworld travel versus Spleebie being right there once he's done with Ganon's Tower.
Yeah. So what we want to see for a competitive race is for Chex to gamble into Ice Palace.
Which, considering his location in the world, is not unreasonable. The Smiths is kind of a one-off, and he knows that he may or may not have forgotten that the purple chest is junk.
And he's more likely to skip it if he in fact remembers it's junk. Is there a simple clip here from the Eastern Palace screen to get up to the portal that takes you to the whirlpool that takes you to Ice Palace?
Not exactly. He'd be better off just saving and quitting and swimming there.
Well, we're not gonna end up on Pyramid if we save and quit, because we haven't beaten Aghanim 1. Spleebie has activated his flute. Chex has not, I don't think.
Yeah, Chex has not activated the flute yet, and he likely will not this late into the seed. So Spleebie is still right on Chex's trail.
Ack is rooting for Chex to disqualify himself with a major glitch.
I hope that Chex knows better.
No, I didn't miss Chex checking the big chest, right? He did do that. In pod, that is.
Actually, did he?
It seems like he's
don't
too
know if
far
he
ahead
did.
to have done that. He may just plan... Okay, he did hammer jump. All right.
It just happened so fast that we missed it. Well, actually, he hammer jumped earlier on in the seed, before he had the big key, so maybe not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he didn't check it. Yeah, because I guess he's just he was just hoping that maybe it was on Armos here. Hopefully, he plans. Well, he probably just plans to go back. Yeah. So Spleebie may actually be... Well, they may be done at close to the same time, these two dungeons. And then Spleebie will go straight for Turtle Rock.
Well, Chex has to go searching for the ice rod again.
So this is probably going to decide the race. What Chex decides to do here. Does he go to the Smiths or go to Ice Palace?
He's heading right. That looks like Ice Palace.
This is Ice Palace, so we've got a race now. Chex is going to waste time full clearing Ice Palace. Meanwhile, Spleebie will get the time to catch up on the... He needs to full clear Ganon's tower. He needs to find the big key behind Ice Armos and do the climb, which Chex has already done.
Now, luckily, it looks like Spleebie is going for the mirror up to Laser Bridge, which will put him right next to the boss for Turtle Rock. So this won't be very long for him before heading into Ganon's tower.
Yep. So this should be a close finish. Hopefully he doesn't make a mistake here. He's too low, I think.
No, he's not too low. He just has to... Yeah, he's fine.
There are many ways to do this wrap, is that correct?
Yeah, there's a few ways. Getting your positioning right next to the transition the way that he did is kind of hard. There are some ways to make that a lot easier, but it relies on doing the jumps after the T-Rock climb in a specific fashion, which he unfortunately did not do.
We know the pedestal is nothing, but I do not believe we have a hint for Sahasrarla's items, so Chex should kill Cold Stare no matter what. Chex, I believe, has checked pedestal, so he knows it's nothing. He won't waste time doing that, at least.
Right.
So silver arrows on Trinix here could be interesting.
are not there, unfortunately. Because the silver arrows would save roughly, I think, 40 seconds on the Ganon fight, which could make the race even closer than it is. And harder to tell who's actually closer to winning this thing.
Yeah, and they would have saved Spleebie time doing Ice Armos. So Spleebie will do the cutscene. And you're saying this is slower?
Yes. However, it does let him enter Ganon's tower with full health. Granted, you can still use the uncle, or not the uncle, the old man. Where are you going, Spleebie? Oh, now he's doing the clip.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
I guess that's still faster, yeah. But not nearly as much as saving and quitting to the old man.
Now, Chex has already checked Ped, so he will kill Cold Stare and turn in the green pendant. Okay, so Chex just found Silver Arrow, so that gives him 30 seconds back or something. I think I heard just earlier today that it is 35 seconds advantage with perfect execution on both versions of that fight.
Okay, so I was kind of close with the 40-second ballpark figure.
So, Spleebie only looking for the GT Big Key. I would hope skips Tile Room at least.
He checked the 2 chests on the right and did not continue further, so it looks like that's going to be the case, unless he decides to do a left-right gamble, which is kind of a weird one.
It's a hedge against, I mean, you're wasting a minute if it's, not on the right side, but you're hedging against it being there. But anyway, he's going to save time doing the right side entirely. So this is good. Good for the competitive hopes for this race. So Chex now done Ice Palace and got the silvers. He will waste time checking green pendant, but Spleebie still has a way to go going upstairs after killing Ice Armos.
Luckily, he has the bow, so that should be a much faster fight for him than it was for Chex earlier on.
And I think the only thing Chex has left after this green pendant turn-in is going to be the Smith and Hammer Peg. I think he has otherwise full cleared the game. Oh, yeah, TT Big Chest, but he's not going to do that before the Smiths.
A little bit of a hesitation there. I wonder if he's racking his brain for a sec.
Yeah, I wonder if he's trying to think if he forgot something other than the Smiths.
Regardless, he's heading toward Kakariko, so that is the right direction.
Yep. So we're going to have... What, a... That's not the way to the portal. We're going to have upstairs GT versus Turtle Rock clear plus silvers.
Plus some overworld travel for Chex, because it's going to take him about a minute to get to the Ganon hole from Turtle Rock.
Yeah, it's still looking like Chex has a pretty good lead.
Spleebie checking a couple of chests just in case the silvers are there. But he's now heading upstairs.
He's got to watch his arrows a little here. He cannot miss.
And he's going to have to pick up an arrow pot in the second room if he wants to continue.
Yep.
Ooh, nice arrow drop there.
Yeah, it's just too fast for Chex to get to Trinex, and not long enough for him to get to the pyramid afterwards. Plus, he'll save time with the silver, so... Doesn't look like Spleebie can close this gap here.
Now he is putting to work the half magic and fire rod combo. It's pretty potent for the gauntlet here. All right, so we saw a different variation of the laser bridge clip from Chex, which let him be right on the transitional border much quicker without having to change any of his positioning around.
So Spleebie out of magic, actually. I'm not sure if he had... Yeah, he's got a blue potion, so he's fine. You won't have that, though, for Ganon, if he has to use it here, though. Chex is in the lead because this is Overworld Glitches, and he has already completed Ganon's Tower. Because you have logical access to that as soon as you have what? Just the Moon Pearl?
Yes, it requires the Moon Pearl and, of course, the boots, but since we start with the boots in Overworld Glitches, it's not really something you consider for the logic.
Yeah, Chex is even going to get to Ganon first with the Silver's advantage. Where's Chex going?
I don't know. He's taking a rather roundabout way. He also should have save and quit from killing Trinex to be able to get to the Ganon hole faster from the route that it looks like he's doing.
Never seen anybody do that. Bonk and move that block backwards.
Running into a little trouble with the mini Helmas, though. They're knocking him around.
So what is this? Is this a meme route to the pyramid?
With all these extra dashes, it might be.
I mean, clearly faster just to go to your house first.
Yeah, in this case, it definitely is.
But here we go.
Chex takes the first blood on Ganon.
Yeah.
As Spleebie kills Aga 2.
Spleebie won't be far behind, but Chex has the silvers where Spleebie does not. Those were the right side Ice Palace, hammerlocked. Remember, we're making fun of Chex for how he got to Swamp.
I'm gonna make fun of him for his route to Ganon here. Gonna add that on top of it.
No mercy, that sounds good to me. I don't think Spleebie meant to dash north there. I think he meant to bonk through the circle, the fire bat circle there.
Yeah, he's getting a bit longer of a phase. No, he's still got the phase 2 done. Should be fine.
So there we have it. Chex finishes in first place with a time of 1:49.58. Well, you might be right, Peefland. He is not coming straight into the interview. He gave us a BRB. Let's see. Do we need to pull him? What do we need to do to get him into the interview here once he gets back? Is there an invite that we need to do with the bot?
It almost looks like that Spleebie is going for some cape spins here, hitting those torches a bit late. If he got a couple, that'd be awesome. But nonetheless, Ganon goes down, and he does a nice little fire rod dash to get a different colored sword.
Yeah, so Spleebie finishes here in second place with a... He does a bit of a moonwalk there. Loses a bit of time. 1:51.30. So only a minute and a half behind with a silver's disadvantage. We will see if we can get these guys in for an interview. I don't know how to do that.
So the silvers did wind up making a difference at the end of it, but not quite as much to pull it out of the jaws of victory from Chexhuman. There is just a little bit too much of an advantage to make up. Which, by the way, we are joined by both Spleebie and Chexhuman. Congrats to you both.
Thank you, GG's.
Hey, GG.
All right, so that was an interesting race at the end. We wondered if both of you felt a little bit bad about those pendant dips. You both did mostly the same thing, although Spleebie went into ice without the hammer, where Chex went with a bit later.
Mm.
So were you both feeling like you had to gamble?
Yep.
We figured you were gambling pretty early on there, Spleebie.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we'll do Skullwoods, Thieves Town, maybe it's Ped, whatever. My swamp and Ice Palace dips without hammers were an accident because I forgot about the hammer requirements. Yeah, in swamp, and then I go to Ice Palace thinking, oh, I'm really behind. I need to make a gamble. Got the mitts, go into ice. Oh yeah, hammer.
Yeah, it was a bit of a seesaw there at the end because Chex sort of orphaned the Smiths with the ice rod, where you were able to get that earlier and have hammer for effectively go mode, knowing where the bow was.
Yeah, that hint in Ice Palace really saved you there for a while.
I was afraid of that.
So, Spleebie, you did a little bit of a circle there in the South Dark World. We weren't sure quite what you were doing, maybe trying to get to Meyer? Mid-game? Maybe you just don't remember.
I don't.
We considered that it was because you weren't familiar with the clip into Meyer over by where the hammer pegs, where you would mirror to go to Bombos.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I just figured you weren't familiar with that clip and wanted to go north to one where you were more familiar.
Yeah, that's basically, I clipped up onto the ledge more south of the grove, I guess. I don't actually know how to get into mire from there if it's possible.
It is, but it's a little weird.
Yeah, so that's when I bailed and went around and went in where I knew it would work.
And speaking of running around, Chex, we have a couple of questions for you.
Oh yeah, we
Oh,
got some
boy.
questions. So, what was the deal with getting the swamp there? Seemed like you forgot how to get there.
How do you get there?
You just used the portal. You saved and quit once, sort of moved around before getting there. What happened?
I could have used the whirlpool, I suppose.
Well, it seemed like you were going to swamp and you decided against it, and then you in fact did go to swamp in the end. What were you thinking maybe instead?
I was thinking, oh, I don't have the hook shot.
Except you had the hook shot for quite a while.
I guess that's true, yeah.
And then you took...
The other question we have for you is, after Turtle Rock, that was a really long route to get to Ganon. I think it would have been better if you had just done a save and quit to either your house or to the mountain and started from there, rather than doing all that stuff in the light world, dashing across the top of the mountain.
Cheating doesn't pay, Chex.
I guess you're right. That doesn't really need timing. I guess that was pretty obvious.
And so, Spleebie, did you have any other thoughts about where you were in the race? I mean, you felt like you had to gamble early after those pendants. Was there anything else on your mind?
I thought when I did the Ice Palace dip and I saw the hint for Spike Cave, I was like, well, I felt like it was pretty unlikely that Chex got that hint. So I was hoping that he missed Spike Cave, and then it went on, and I was like, well, he must have really missed something. But I was had no way to know I was only 90 seconds behind.
Yeah, he had only just gotten the hammer when you found that hint in Ice Palace, so it was pretty useful information to have for sure. Hammer was very late in the seed for both of you.
Yeah, Chex actually last location in the ice rod other than the Thieves Town big chest. Is that right, Chex?
Yes, that's right.
So that was the main source of the difference there. Chex had the earlier mirror, so his overworld was a bit more efficient, but he was able to waste more time in Ice Palace and had to do a little bit of extra stuff in Pod, where you did the mimic clip on the right side, and that saved you a bit of time.
Yeah, it took like 45 seconds probably, but
it might actually have been a net time save versus what Chex did, because he had to go in and out. So how are you feeling, Chex? I mean, Spleebie felt like he had to gamble. What about you?
The seed was a kind of demonstration of exactly how dumb I am. Since I just wanted to full clear. That's all I wanted out of this. Just full clear it. But I kept missing important things to full clear. So I missed King's Tomb twice. Or whatever. And then Spike Cave twice. And then, third time was the charm for both of them. I was also thinking I had this spike to hammer peg route, but I actually didn't know it yet. So
yeah, you wound up losing your bow there for a moment.
Still learning. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that looked like you were going to clinch the match there with that move, because that would have saved you the entire Ice Palace dip.
Yeah.
And we were worried that you were headed to ice after Pod, and that was indeed what happened and made the race close.
Yeah. Yeah. Figures.
So Spleebie, we see, has a lower collection rate. He was able to... What was he able to do? He did not do right side Ganon's tower. He did not do...
The hammer-locked stuff in Ice Palace.
Unfortunately, that was the silvers. I guess that's not actually a net time save, though.
No.
Yeah.
I skipped Mimic Cave.
Yeah, Chex did that.
Like what else?
You skipped hammer pegs.
Yeah,
Chex did that.
and part of Swamp.
Yeah, Chex opened some extra chests in Swamp.
Just the submerged ones over what you had cleared there. Oh wait, no, and the little roundabout one down below the big chest.
Yeah, I just did the bombable wall and then the waterfall one.
I actually
Bombable
don't
wall
think you...
when I was there without hammer.
Oh yeah, you did that earlier when you mistakenly went into Swamp without the
Yeah.
hammer.
I realized as I went in, like, I'm mirroring, and then I was like, oh wait, I need the hammer. And I was like, oh well, I'll just check it. Maybe hammer will be there, and it'll be Galaxy Brain, you know. I don't know.
Check. So are you looking at figuring out what you're supposed to do for that hammer peg
Yeah.
check?
I think you go up, you transition, and then you go up, and then you're fine.
No.
Oh,
No, you go to the right and transition there, so you get the fake flipper.
oh, I like it. Thank you. Gotcha.
All right, so
Now we know.
so Chex has been doing this overworld glitch stuff for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And Spleebie, where are you in your overworld glitches career?
Well, that's the funny thing, because they said, hey, we're going to do an Overworld Glitches tournament, and I thought, hey, maybe I should learn some Overworld Glitches. So I actually only started a couple weeks before the tournament started, and I think when I signed up, I'd only done like 3 seeds, I think, in total.
They still
So-
made it to brackets, so that's
yeah,
pretty
so
impressive.
getting to brackets, I've been really happy with how far I got in this tournament. Much more than I expected.
And do you know all of the stuff that's at least in logic?
I don't know the teleport to the graveyard ledge.
Oh, yeah.
I only know the spin speed one.
Oh, we should teach you the screen wrap method for that, because there's one of those which is a lot easier than doing the teleport.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That does require mirror, of course.
I think other than
No,
that,
it doesn't. It doesn't require mirror. It doesn't require anything.
I mean, of course it doesn't require mirror. So that's helpful.
Yeah, other than I think that one, I think I know all of them, all of the required glitches.
And then, of course, a few extra, because we did see you pull out the mirror rep for Laser Bridge.
Yeah, that, and I can get into ice with the mirror. And right before this race, I learned the mirrorless ice palace. But
I assume you mean the one with the flippers and not with the potion.
yes, with the flippers.
Yeah, the potion one is scary, because that you're basically using a potion to trigger a transition that would normally hard lock you.
Oh boy.
So it's kind of scary.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I can do the Smith YBA, but I've only ever done it like one time.
It's really silly. Not necessary. Only
Yeah,
good
but,
if you want a full clear.
I've really enjoyed doing Overworld glitches, so I'm probably gonna keep playing that and maybe learn some more of the major glitches for the underworld and stuff.
That's
There
good to
are
hear. We
There are
need to
certainly
really
a lot of those.
Like, it's
get
good
our
time,
resources.
so.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
What are you talking about, Chex? All the major resource glitch documentation is great and comprehensive and easy to find.
Mm-hmm.
For those in chat, I'm being a little bit sarcastic. The
A little? That was dripping with sarcasm, and rightly so.
yeah, I hear you're working to correct this, Taj.
Not as hard as I could be, but yeah, I really do want to get a better set of resources for it. One that's more easily searchable.
And one thing that I've used for Overworld glitches, at least, is there's a Google Doc, I think Futon put together, that has all of like tons and tons of info on there with screenshots and videos on some, and I mean that's been super nice.
Yeah, Michael K, I believe, posted an archive of short videos of time-saving overworld glitches. I think, in fact, you pulled out one of them this race, the bomb clip from below desert up to
Yes.
the ledge.
Yeah, and I learned
that is quickly coming into favor. It's a pretty nice one.
So I learned
Sweet.
the quick entry into Eastern from those videos too.
Have you learned the citrus clip?
Nope.
Nah,
I
that's
keep
fine.
seeing it
That's
mentioned.
fine.
I keep seeing people talk about citrus clip, and I'm like, I'm not touching that.
Why would you do that with boots?
But then, once the tournament was over, I thought maybe I'll look at it. But
I mean, there's no reason to citrus clip with boots, right? Am I missing something here?
Well, if you're a bunny, it can help with a couple of things.
No,
but but not really that much. At what you're logically available to do as the bunny, you're going to have the mirror for anyway, and it's a lot easier to use the mirror in that respect than to do any sort of bootless clipping.
All right. Well, if I know Chex had to take a break before the interview. If you want to head out, Spleebie, you are welcome to. You have any other thoughts on the seed or overworld glitches in general?
nothing, I think. I mean, this seed was weird, but then I took some gambles, hoping it would pay off. Was really trying to get that tie, so we could have a game 4 later, but it didn't quite work out.
You came pretty close, though, all things considered.
Yeah.
Did you decide early on that you were going to make those gambles, or was it more a result of you tried the pendant dungeons and you failed and you felt like you had to double down?
I don't know. I kind of went into it thinking, I need to do something to beat Chex, because he's better than me, is what I was thinking, which is true, 100%. But I don't know. After I didn't find anything, the pendant dungeons didn't really make me feel behind as much as the swamp and ice dips without hammer. Which is why then I followed the gloves and got the ice rod and stuff and skipped GT entirely. Otherwise, I think I would have gone into GT earlier. But I guess it didn't have much.
And you, in fact, saved time going into ice without the hammer compared to Chex. Yeah. So, good game, Spleebie, and congratulations on your performance in this tournament for learning glitches, 3 weeks before the tournament started, making brackets. That's an excellent result.
Yeah, I'm certainly happy with it. So, thanks for putting this on, and you guys for commentating and Tracker, and thanks everyone.
Good game.
Yeah, thank you both for jumping in last minute.
Well, I mean, I did this to make fun of you to a degree, Chex.
Appreciate it. Always appreciate it.
Right. So what do you do you know who your opponent is next, Chex?
No.
What is the matchup? Or do you not even know what the matchup is for your opponent next? One game at a time. You're trying to take it one game at a time.
Yeah, exactly.
Good sports psychologist answer.
I heard it was ALTTTPR, but I think he's out of the tournament. So I guess not.
Wow, shade at ALTTTPR. Did you hear that, Ak? He was here a minute ago.
He was making sure you knew where your uncle was.
And whether you had a bottle. He was rooting for you to disqualify yourself. With an underworld glitch.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, good game to Chex. Good game to Spleebie. And I think we should wrap it up there, unless you have anything else to say about the match, Chex.
No. Thanks again.
Todd, do you want to explain any of these glitches that Chex failed?
I think we already have for the most part. And as far as what's next on SpeedGaming, this is it for tonight. Stuff doesn't start up again until tomorrow, so you'll have to tune in then.
We have lots of stuff coming, though, in terms of Link to the Past. The Cross Keys... Oh, well, that's not on SpeedGaming. Maybe I should mention it. It's around. You can find it if you want. There's a tournament. But there's more Overworld glitches stuff coming on SpeedGaming.
So stay tuned.
I don't know when that is, but you can find it. Nice soft lock checks.
Thanks.
Well, with that, I've been Tojiso, and I've been joined by Hikatite.
And we've been joined by Chex, and thanks to Chex and Spleebie for putting on a great race. And good night, everybody.
We'll catch you all later.